We're going to move on to agenda item number 11. Nevada Association of Counties Wild Horse lawsuit. When we talked about this at the last commission meeting, and we didn't come to a agreement on a letter, and we wanted to see if we could take it further, I made the comment that it would be a 8-hour ordeal just trying to figure out how to get this on the agenda and what we had legal authority to do. And the commission is a broad policy-based part of the Department of Wildlife, and the Department of Wildlife actually works for the governor's office, and we had multiple things we had to consider. So one of the things I considered was calling Mr. Newton, and I'm going to punt to him right now and let him tell us what he found as to our authority as a commission in this matter. Mr. Newton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Your authority as a commission is non-existent, actually, to become a litigant. There are several statutes in different authorizing chapters that I'm familiar with that give the body the ability to become party to a lawsuit. Your chapter is silent on that. I could not find anywhere in 501 to 505 that gave you the authorization to enter into a lawsuit, either as the department or as the commission. You could push it, but I wouldn't advise it. I believe that if the parties challenged your ability to have standing, you would lose, because you do not have that sort of enabling legislation and allowing you to become a party. So you still have the options, of course, of writing a letter, of submitting a friend of the court brief, if you choose to go that route, which I know past commissions have done that. But in terms of becoming a formal party to the case, I don't believe you have the authority.
As the commission?
As the commission. I could not find that the department has that authority either.
You couldn't find that the department has the authority?
No, sir.
Okay.
The department certainly has the authority to bring cases in terms of citations and against for violations and that sort of stuff. But in terms of becoming a party in something like this, I could not find where either entity has that authority.
Okay. And that was part one of where I needed to get to find out how we were going to do this agenda item today. Part two, we were in the middle of trying to work through part two, and that was discussions with the governor's office to see where we were going and what we could do. And with the department working for the governor, and we needed to go that route also to find out what we were doing. And there's been some staff turnover at the governor's office lately, and the person we were trying to get a meeting with to discuss what was going on left, and there's a new person in there that is trying to figure out a whole host of state items that he needs to address on a more immediate nature than some of this stuff. So with all that being said, I don't know what we could do as a commission on the lawsuit. So I believe we're back to the discussion of a letter that we originally started discussing at the last meeting, and I think there was a motion for a letter that didn't make it through because there was more appetite to go beyond what the letter could do. So that's kind of where we're standing. I entertain any other commissioners to ask questions of myself, Mr. Newton, or anybody, and we'll try to answer those questions, and then we'll take it to public comment, and we'll come back and see if we want to do a letter or where we're going. So any commissioners at this point have any questions? Commissioner Drew.
Just to clarify, Mr. Newton, you had mentioned that we couldn't intervene, but that we could file an amicus brief. Did I hear that right? Or
correct, because you're not becoming a party to the case. So you could ask the court for, it's called for leave to file a friend of the court brief or an amicus brief. You could certainly do that, because that's not, you're not placing the department or the commission in the position of being a litigant in the case. You're basically, you want to make sure the court knows what your opinion of the case is, or your opinion of certain elements of the case. So you're just trying to provide more information to the court at that point.
And so if we did that as a commission, by what mechanism would you do it? Because technically our staff is the department. So that's, I think, where Jack gets to part 2, but I'm not completely clear on that.
And that's what I believe part 2 is, and we haven't ironed out part 2 because of the recent changes at the governor's office, and I think we're just, we don't, I thought we could be further than we are right now with the answers, and it wasn't, I committed to getting the answers. It's just some things changed between then and now, and I was unable to get to where I thought I could get to because of circumstances that we didn't see when I committed to getting there. So, if anything, I think we could put out a letter of support and maybe agendize it again in a future meeting, and whoever the chairman at that point is could speak to the governor's office and see if there's any appetite to doing that. But part 3 was going to be whether there's other state agencies interested in doing the same thing as NDOW, the Wildlife Commission, and, you know, does the Department of Ag want to do the same thing? But if we do the same thing, we would probably have different talking points, but how would our talking points be? There's a lot to this, and I don't want to do it wrong because it's a big deal. So it needs a lot of work, more work than just making a couple phone calls. It's going to take some back and forth time and some different attorneys looking at it, and governor's legal counsel, everybody. It's not just a yes or no answer. It's a big deal, and we don't have a right answer at this point. Commissioner McNinch, did you have a question or statement?
Well, I guess I'm thinking back a few years now where we were actually headed down that path for a while, and I thought that we had cleared some of those hurdles and we were on our way to filing a lawsuit. I don't remember it being a friend of the lawsuit type thing. I thought it was something more driven by the commission or the department. So I guess I'm trying to think back there, but nothing precludes action from the Attorney General's office. But I guess that's in coordination with the governor's office. And I say that from the standpoint that we've got a pretty serious problem, and it's you know, if there's no avenue for it, then there's got to be an avenue for it.
I'm not saying there's not an avenue for it. I believe that there needs to be a considerable amount of work offline accomplished before we can take action as a commission to get there. And like I said, I committed to doing that, and there was things happened that were out of our control that we didn't know were coming. No, I don't know. Obviously, nobody knew it was coming. So we just need to regroup and figure out where we're at, and it's something that I wanted to see happen while I was still on the commission, but it's something that's going to happen after I'm on the commission, because I just don't see a way to get there. I know when we go to public comment, there's going to be some comments made that are going to surprise some of the commissioners, I'm sure. And I'm going to ask Director Wasley to weigh in on some of the comments, and we're trying to figure this out. We have sage-grouse issues, we have wild horse issues, we have so many issues intertwined right now. You can't jump into one issue and compromise another. Everything we do has an impact, and we have to weigh all the impacts and weigh the best way to tackle this. And it's a much bigger discussion than we can have at a commission meeting. Multiple agencies, multiple people, it's a big deal. So anybody else on the Commissioner Macbeth?
Okay, first of all, I'm puzzled because the department has already been in lawsuits regarding horses. Okay, we have intervened in lawsuits that were filed by horse advocates against the BLM, and so it's basically a third party suing the BLM, and that's exactly the fact pattern we have here. And it seems to me that the question is one of standing. And if we have wild horses impacting wildlife, and this agency is over the wildlife, is responsible for managing wildlife in this state, it seems to me that we clearly have standing for intervening into a suit. And so in the same exact, standing that we have when horses are impacting over AML and impacting, a particular habitat, and horse advocates try to stop a roundup, and we intervene to basically say, we as the state agency over wildlife have an interest in this issue, and therefore we have standing. And I don't see how we couldn't not have standing to be able to intervene in a lawsuit like that. I just simply don't see it. We've done it before, and there's never been. In fact, the horse advocates never even. I can't even remember in reading all the briefs and all of the pleadings that they even tried to challenge the department's standing to be in that lawsuit. So I think we clearly have the ability to intervene into this lawsuit. And so I'm puzzled by all of a sudden we don't think that we don't have the ability to intervene as a party, as a necessary party, not just a party, but a necessary party, because we are the state agency. The Department of Wildlife, not the Commission, the Department of Wildlife is the agency that oversees, manages wildlife in this state, and so therefore there is, in my mind, no question that we're can intervene in this lawsuit and be a party to it. Now, from the standpoint of the Commission, I agree. My idea was to not write a letter in support of what's the name of the group? NACO, but to write a letter to the governor, and because I realize we have to work through this with the governor, but to encourage the governor to direct the Department of Wildlife to intervene into this lawsuit to protect wildlife interests in this state. That's what I think this commission can do, and encourage the governor and the department to move forward and intervene in this lawsuit. This is our opportunity to impact wildlife in this state vis-a-vis this very serious horse issue we have that we've been talking about forever. This is a chance where we can actually do something. And so I'm at a loss to understand why we can't, move forward and basically, implore the governor to direct the department to intervene, or for the department to ask to intervene. This was a discussion of the prior director. There was never an issue that we couldn't do it. There was an issue of that we didn't want to be the lead party, but there was definitely discussions that we would intervene at the appropriate time when the county filed the suit. So I'm puzzled why we wouldn't have standing to do this, and I really do think that if we're going to have any impact on this issue, I mean, what I heard at the last meeting is that the BLM was soon to get some money, but it got diverted to Wyoming. And you know why it got diverted to Wyoming? Because Wyoming has already sued the BLM, has a court order in place. They won the lawsuit. They have a court order in place. And so they are mandated by court order to remove the horses there. And so guess what? Wyoming wins every single time, and the state of Nevada is going to lose every single time because we don't have a court order. BLM's resources will go where they are most needed, and if violating a court order is going to get them, to make sure that they are not going to be in violation of that court order, then yeah, the money's going to go there, and we're going to lose every single time. So if we don't get on this, I think it sends a terrible message. The county is the Association of Counties is hanging out there, and the agency that is most relevant to this issue is not in the suit, is not a party to it. I can't believe it. And I would implore this commission to stress to the governor how important it is for us to be a part of this lawsuit and to finally get a resolution of this issue, because the BLM is violating the law, and it's not necessarily the BLM's fault. We all know that they're not getting their funding. It's Congress's problem. They're the ones that are holding us up through appropriations, but it needs to stop. And the only way we're going to do it is to have this lawsuit. And, they may prevail on their own, but it would certainly be great if this department and this state got behind the lawsuit. Thanks.
And where I'm at is I think I totally agree with you, Commissioner Macbeth. And what you say is we need to encourage the governor, write a letter to the governor to get the governor to do it in conjunction with us. And that's the way I see this happening. Us as a commission, we can't do it. The department, from my understanding, can't do it. The state of Nevada can do it on behalf of the department, and then we're in good shape. But we have to have the state of Nevada do it. Is that my understanding correct, Mr. Newton?
That's my understanding. And to Commissioner Macbeth's point, I'm not talking about standing. All state agencies are limited to the powers that are given them in their statutes. And I'll give you an example. In NRS 706, which deals with the Transportation Authority, which is my other primary client, they have a statute that says the authority may sue and be sued in the name of the Nevada Transportation Authority. That's an explicit grant that they can go to court either as a defendant or as a plaintiff on behalf of the agency. 501 through 505 doesn't have that same grant, and that's what I was looking for. So it's not a standing issue. I agree with you. You would have standing in court. What I was looking for happens one step before the standing question. Do you have the authority as an entity of the government of Nevada to do that? And I don't find it. Now, the governor's office certainly would have that authority and could empower the department or quite possibly the commission to become a party, because they have plenary power in the state where you don't. You have a limited jurisdiction. So that's where my concern comes in. I'm not disagreeing with anything you said regarding sending a letter to the governor's office. I just don't think you can do it, or the department can do it, absent a direct grant of authority from the governor's office to do so on his behalf or her behalf, depending on who the governor is at that point.
And that's my understanding. I think we're all on the same page. Just how do we get there? From my understanding, we can't get there as the commissioner department. We need to work through the governor's office, and that was the number 2 that I was talking about, that we're held up right now. We're not held up. It's just some circumstances arose that, with change of staff, we need to readdress this situation and get a clearly defined answer from the governor's office and figure out how to proceed, whether it's in conjunction with the Department of Ag, whether it's the Department of Wildlife alone, what parts we want to go after, and do we become intervener, file our own complaint? What do we do? There's a lot of questions, and I don't think we can answer it in a commission meeting. It needs to really be carried by a couple individuals on the commission with the governor's office and in conjunction with the Attorney General's office to figure out how we can legally do what we want to do. Anybody else? I know that there's quite a few counties that had quite a bit of discussion on this. Let's go to the county advisory boards, and then we'll bring it back for more discussion. Tom?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tom Barnes, Elko County CAD Chairman, for the record. Elko County has always thought we've had a big problem with the horses, and ever since I've been on the board, it's been a big issue with us. And so when we came to this discussion at this meeting, I think the prior meeting, we supported a letter. Well, this time we thought maybe we needed to be a little stronger. And so the motion that came out of Elko County was an end-off file for intervener status in the NACO wild horse lawsuit. And it really didn't take a lot of discussion. Everybody felt pretty strongly about it, and that's the direction we went. So do you have any other questions on that? Because if you don't, while I'm here, I'm going to switch hats.
All right.
So now, instead of speaking for the CAB, I'm going to speak for the Nevada Cattlemen's Association, which I sit as an officer on. And last Wednesday, we had a meeting with Ted Cook. and we talked about a lot of different things. We talked about adaptive grazing management, and part of that meeting we were trying to establish some common ground that we had with the Fish and Wildlife Service, and obviously we were talking sage grouse. So then we came to the wild horse discussion, and so we were discussing it, and in that conversation, Ted Cook said that the fact that the BLM cannot take care of their horse problem and will not follow their own regulations and rules to take care of the horse problem is enough for him to list the sage grouse. Now, in that meeting, there's 9 of us on the executive committee. There were 6 of us at that meeting present, our executive director and Megan Brown with Amity's office. And when he said that, a couple people asked him to repeat that, and he repeated that same statement. So that just shows how important this horse issue really is.
Might be something the governor might want to know.
Are there any other questions that I could answer?
Any questions of Tom?
Because that statement it floored all of us.
And that was the comment that I made earlier, that when the cabs get up and speak, there might be some surprises, so. Commissioner Drew.
I can follow up a little bit on that, and obviously, Mr. Cook sits on the Sagebrush Ecosystem Council as an ex officio member, and in the discussion of wild horses at that body, he repeatedly stated that no matter what the state plan or the state alternative is, it doesn't matter unless you can implement that. And I think he was getting at what Tom probably just mentioned. I don't recall him ever saying that one issue is enough for him to list, but I mean, he repeatedly said, if you can't show that you can implement what you're asking to implement, then we've got a serious problems in regards to the listing. And so that didn't go unnoticed. And as I mentioned at the last meeting, the Ecosystem Council chose to write a letter in general support of the suit, and I think that's what I had kind of advocated last meeting. So just, I guess, a reminder and kind of to follow up on what Tom said in regards to Fish and Wildlife Service.
Any other county advisory boards? Come on up, Corey. Corey and then Paul.
For the record, Corey Lytle, Lincoln Cab. We too thought that NDAF should intervene, become a party in this, whatever direction we need to take with it. And I don't need to go into details, and I don't want to sound somewhat disgruntled, but it's a joke. The Wild Horse and Burro Act and the way it's managed is a joke, and it has some profound and detrimental effects on our wildlife and other vested rights and permitted uses all through the state. The balance is out of whack. It's wrong. It needs to be fixed, and however we need to get there, we need to get there.
Mr. Dixon?
Paul Dixon, Clark Cab. Although we didn't discuss it at this past meeting, we have, over the past 4 years, this has been a topic on a regular basis at the Clark County cab meetings. And, we've talked about a lot of things, and I believe the only way that we're ever going to change this is, as Commissioner McBeth said, is to win a lawsuit. The reason why I actually am involved in the County Advisory Board is because I was complaining about hunting to Commissioner McBeth, who was then Advisory Board member McBeth at the time, about wild horses that I'd seen when I was hunting. And he told me to get active in this system and try to fix it. And it's a huge problem, and I think until we file a lawsuit as an organization and have some power as a state, we're going to continue to be whipped. And the same way that, we had the concerns with wolves in the past under former commissions, there's certain things that we're going to have to do. And it involves filing a lawsuit, which is painful. I mean, did I want to file a lawsuit against the Heritage Committee when they had done the things they did? But when I did that, the heritage projects, the way they're done now and documented, are different, and it's better for all sportsmen. But sometimes you have to do that in order to make things better, and I think that things are not going to change until we get a lawsuit in the state and win it. Otherwise, we're going to continue to be a dumping ground, and our wildlife is going to pay for the driest state in the union. Thank you.
Come on up.
Miles Humphreys, for the record, speaking on behalf of Washoe County. It didn't take us long with the general public and also the board, the cab, to all be in favor of it. And one of the things that it says in this, one of the sentences says from the Wild Free Roaming Horses and Burros Act is that it would be kept at a level of, in quotes, thriving natural ecological balance. Anything but that out there in the desert. And we strongly support it, and we think at all costs, we need to do whatever's possible to make sure that it gets back to a thriving natural ecological balance. And yeah, we are in big support of it, and that was about all. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any other cabs have any comments? Seeing none, any public comment? Come on up, Joel.
For the record, Joe Blakeslee just speaking on behalf of myself. The question we have to ask is why are wild horses a problem? And it's really simple. These are wild animals that we do not manage with science. We manage them with purely politics, and it gets out of control. I would encourage you to intervene and insist that the lawsuit work off of AML. That's science. Tell them we want to see the science that was put into place be followed, because that's the answer to this. If you manage animals by politics, this is what you get. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Come on up.
Hi, Richard Paps, resident of Clark County. I had a question. We see on many other issues before this commission and the cabs, time after time talks about demerits, fines, pressures brought against sportsmen. And we have this issue with the wild horses and the burros. But when I'm traveling in areas where it's strictly posted that it's illegal to feed these animals, there's nothing done about the traffic that blocks Cold Creek Road, the people in the campgrounds, people dropping off bales of hay. Now, I've watched law enforcement go right by this. Why is it that the focus seems to be for wildlife and the Department of Wildlife to police the sportsmen? Whose responsibility? Is this a local police department? Is this Department of Wildlife? And why is it that these violations can just happen continuously, publicly, supported by the advocates, and I've yet to see anybody on numerous occasions have anything done? They're calling them across the road, a public road. Cars have to slow down, avoid them, go around, because people are feeding apples to these. Obviously, they're hungry, they're pathetic looking, but this is happening on public ways and in public lands and campgrounds. And I'd just like to see if there's something that could be done about that, because we certainly get regulated. We look over our shoulder every day, and we should. We should follow all the rules. But so should people on other sides of issues. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Moldy?
Mr. Chairman, Don Moldy, Reno, speaking for myself. I understand that, people think there's a problem and believe there's a problem, and perhaps there is. I mean, if you're saying that horses can beat up a patch of ground and make a mess out of a spring, I'd agree with you. So can cows. I'm sure 300 or 400 elk can do the same thing. But when you use the generic term wildlife's taking a beating, then I would like to see what the department ultimately comes up with to describe that dimension, because you can't use big game species to prove your point. We already have too many elk, too many bighorns, probably too many pronghorns. Mule deer, none of the sportsmen have apparently thought yet to blame horses for deer numbers, but sooner or later, somebody will probably come up with that, but nobody would believe it. Duck hunters aren't taking a hit from horses, as far as I know. Fishermen are limited by drought. Fur trappers aren't taking a hit from horses. Upland game bird hunters, as far as I know, are not restricted. Reptile collectors are still going out and picking up lizards and rattlesnakes. I don't know what wildlife you're talking about when you use that term, I guess with a small w. So I'd be really interested in seeing you pursue this, because I'd like to understand what you're talking about. Frankly, right now, I don't. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Randall?
Randall Stoborough for the record, representing myself. Hey guys, I love horses. I love them. Every buckle I've ever won is with horses. But I agree 100% with Mr. Macbeth over here. It's our responsibility. I mean, everybody here sitting in this room, it's all our responsibility to protect Nevada's wildlife. And we can't do it with the wild horses. They say wild horses. No, it's a feral horse. It's no different than a feral cat. And we need to take action and to protect Nevada's wildlife. You know, I'm probably the biggest conservationist in this room. I try to protect all wildlife and see that, you know, even with my trapping activities, manage these things. And these horses are not being managed. They're overrun in Elko County. So that's my opinion for what it's worth. But like Mr. Macbeth said, you know, it's our responsibility. It's necessary that we intervene and get these horses managed right with science. Thank you.
Any, Bob?
For the record, Bob Bruner. This is just informational. We at the Coalition for Nevada Wildlife are helping write a Reed Heller bill that will address at a federal level what's going on to help sage grouse, but in that includes how they're going to change what they're doing managing horses and managing AUMs and everything else. So that's what we're doing to try and do a game change so that Mr. Cook does have somewhere to go and does have an understanding that just telling the BLM to do something is not going to happen. So this is new funding, new language, no wiggle room. These are answers instead of just kind of hoping the BLM will do something. So I would like to encourage you to get a hold of the governor or encourage him to get involved just to make sure that we're making as many pronged attack as we can on solving this problem and really changing what's going on, which is what the BLM is looking for on sage grouse. Change what's going on and not go through the same motions.
Any other public comment?